Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. Thanks for joining us this Wednesday morning, first day of November. We got you covered all across the board with national, international, and local stories, as well as the things that matter most to each and every one of you. Thanks for being part of what we do. It's at 7:35 when we talk to Amy Riccardo. She is a mom, entrepreneur, and now candidate for Loudoun County School Board. And boy, there's a lot going on in Loudoun County, including this fentanyl crisis that appears also to have been covered up by the school system. We'll get into all those details. Then at 8:35, Adam Credo will join us. He's with Free Beacon. He covers legislation on Capitol Hill regarding Middle East and Iran sanctions. Hey, Julie Gunlock, happy day after Halloween.
Good morning.
Are you doing all right?
I'm doing
You had
great.
fun last night?
I did.
Good. So did we. Well, not really. We didn't. We shut down all the lights, closed the blinds. We didn't want any
Trapped in your house.
We were that house. We're haunted. Our house is haunted. That's what we are.
Stay away.
Joining us right now is Ann Miller, not the tap dancing singer and dancer from the 1940s. I've made that mistake before. No, she is a mother in Loudoun County, and one of her sons is a freshman in high school at Purcellville High School specifically. And all the boys on the football team now have to shower and share a locker room with a young woman who is identifying as a man. And there's a planned walkout today of students and parents over this new policy. And Ann joins us now. Ann, thanks for being here, and thanks for being an activist on this issue.
Good morning, Larry and Julie. Thank you for shedding light on this issue.
Yeah, this is abuse, frankly, to everybody involved. And I want to know what this conversation's been like with your son, who now has to face this.
It's been a difficult transition into high school. Being forced to do something that they know is wrong. I mean, changing in front of somebody of the opposite sex is wrong, and the people who are in charge of them and are supposed to be taking care of them and keeping them safe are forcing them to do this. And because of the policies that they have been silenced with into compliance the last several years, they have been afraid to speak up.
And I'm curious. Purcellville is a town of it has fewer than 10,000. It's around 10,000, but it's basically a smaller Virginia town. It still is in Northern Virginia. But a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to leave sort of, the DC area and Arlington and Fairfax, and I'm going to escape to, a more rural area to escape this. But this shows you it is everywhere. What kind of support are you getting from school officials? Is the principal is he willing to talk to you? Is the superintendent willing to talk to you? What kind of interaction have you had with school officials?
Yes, so we're out here in Western Loudoun, and there's two high schools out here actually in Purcellville. So there is Loudoun Valley High School, and there's Woodgrove High School. And my son is a student at Woodgrove. When the administration has been supportive, when the students approached and asked to do this walkout, they waited until the end of the season. Their season ended on Monday. Mm-hmm. Today is the first day back. They're giving students the space to do this. They're doing it during their advisory block. It's a student walkout, so while parents are welcome, they need to stay up in. We will be staying up by the ball field, so the students can do their thing.
And forgive me if I missed this in the story. How were you notified, or were you notified? Were parents actually notified officially by the school that this was happening?
So actually, that's part of the problem. The county does not have a mechanism in place to inform students or parents that this is happening. So unless the student happens to know that this is going on, which was the case for several of these players, but there are children that in this county that have absolutely no idea they are changing in front of someone of the opposite sex.
Wow.
And nobody's telling them. And then nobody told the parents. So we didn't even have the mechanism to opt. There is a mechanism to opt out, but we didn't know to opt out. So the only reason we had got answers from the administration is because our children told us and we went to them and asked.
Has there been any discussion with the school administration about different kind of accommodations? You know, I'm trying hard to be sympathetic to God knows what this young girl is going through in her life that she now wants to or feels compelled to go through this process. And frankly, I think the parents are probably getting some pretty questionable advice from psychologists and doctors. We've seen it out there. Is there any other accommodation that can be made?
Of course, we have tried to tell the boys that we just need to focus on the policy that has put them in this position. So it's not about any individual. We want every student to have a right to privacy.
Yeah.
We were told that if our sons had an issue, they could go to the head coach, and then there would be an alternate. They could go change in the PE locker room.
Oh, for them,
so
the boys, the vast majority of the boys on the team would then have to go to a different location, not this one individual. By the way, my understanding is this individual involved. She used to be a cheerleader, and now is transitioning.
Wow.
And by the way, if the boys are uncomfortable, if the boys don't like this, if it bothers, if they
they're the problem.
mispractice, I mean, they've been threatened that they could be removed from the football team, right?
Wow.
If it becomes a problem.
Well, as I said, this isn't about a particular individual. This really is about the policy. Yes, because of policy 8040 that have been forced on the students in Loudoun County for the last several years, they've been forced into silence. They have been told in school that if they say anything, if they mispronounce somebody, if they call them by their wrong name, that they will get in trouble. So they are new to the school. They don't have relationships established with coaches and administration, and they were afraid to speak up and to go even ask. But this is going on all over the county. Parents don't know, and these boys just wanted a voice.
Yep.
They feel that they've been silenced. They feel that they have been bullied into this, and it's been very frustrating. And this is just a way they know this is wrong and it needs to be fixed.
I'm wondering, Anne, if there's been any talk among some of the parents of collectively seeking legal advice. I know that there are groups out there that are interested in helping families and parents. And for any lawyers listening, I hope that this is a possibility. Has there been talk of that, or have you been approached?
Yes, absolutely. And there was a group of parents that filed a lawsuit against down in Virginia Beach against the school board for not complying. Mind you, there's a policy in Virginia. The Virginia Department of Education put out a policy in July, and the policy specifically states that bathrooms and locker rooms are to be by biological sex only. Mm-hmm. But Loudoun County is refusing to comply. We don't want to go to litigation. We really don't.
Right.
We're hoping that the school system will do the right thing and not bully their students. They're also bullying their administrators and teachers and coaches because they're bullying them into following up policy. And then they in turn are turning around and bullying our children into following this policy. So this anti-bullying policy is actually bullying a lot of people.
It only works one direction, apparently. Ann Miller, thanks for joining us. Our best to your son. It's Loudoun Valley High School is where the walkout is scheduled today. I'm sorry, Woodgrove High School. I've got it's Woodgrove High School, right?
Woodgrove High School, yeah.
Thank you. I've got mixed information here from me. Woodgrove High School, 10:50 this morning. And
thank you, Ann.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you all so much.
It's 7.
Stream us live online wherever you are, whenever you want. Download the new WMAL app today.
All right. There was a showdown yesterday. Josh Hawley, Senator of Missouri, sparring with Mayorkas, Secretary Mayorkas of Homeland Security. And this is specifically about that employee. We told you about this about 2 weeks ago. Homeland Security employee who was hired during the Trump administration, by the way. This is a Hamas sympathizer, actually worked for...
She's a cheerleader.
Yeah, and used to work for an entity here in D.C. I think it was the Palestinian Authority as the government entity. They were all kicked out of D.C. She lost her job, got hired by DHS, and her job was to screen refugees.
That's great.
Seeking asylum.
Yeah.
This one's fine. This one won't cause any problems.
Yeah, we're not in any danger. Everything's fine.
We found out that this person was put on leave yesterday. Holly wants to know why she hasn't been fired or investigated.
She also posted this graphic. Now, this is a fake graphic, I want to be clear, but I think we understand it. This is a paraglider, a Hamas paraglider, depicted here with a machine gun flying into Israel. She posted it under her online alias with the celebratory Free Palestine. Mr. Secretary, what's going on here? Is this typical of people who work at DHS? This is an asylum and immigration officer who is posting these, frankly, pro-genocidal slogans and images on the day that Israelis are being slaughtered in their beds. What have you done about this?
4 things I'd like to say to you. Number one, your question to suggest that that is emblematic of the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security is despicable.
I'm sorry, what have you done? This person works for the Department of Homeland Security.
To suggest that this is she literally works for you.
Hawley's the despicable one here.
Hawley's the problem.
Yes.
How dare you suggest that DHS employees this is literally a DHS employee.
Have you fired her?
That was one of 4 answers.
Have you fired her?
One.
Have you fired her? Don't come to this hearing room when Israel has been invaded and Jewish students are barricaded in libraries in this country and cannot be escorted out because they are threatened for their lives.
Yes.
You have employees who are celebrating genocide, and you are saying it's despicable for me to ask the question? Has she been fired?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary.
After the consumption of Senator Hawley's time, I'd like to speak.
Has she been fired?
Because I will
We
not
would like
be,
an answer. Would you?
Because I will not be given the opportunity.
Has she been fired?
So that individual has been placed on administrative leave.
So she's not been fired.
Number two.
Why has she not been fired?
Number two, the individual was hired in 2019.
Why has she not been fired?
Number three, I cannot
he's
speak
awful.
to an ongoing personnel matter.
Why has this person not been fired? Your answer is you can't speak to it? This isn't sufficient to fire her?
I am not in a position to speak to an ongoing personnel matter.
This isn't sufficient to fire her? That's what you're telling me?
That is not what I'm saying.
But she's still on your payroll as we sit here today.
That is not what I'm saying.
She's still on your payroll as we sit here today.
Senator?
How many cases? She was an asylum and immigration officer. How many cases did she adjudicate?
Senator, I'm not in a position to speak about an ongoing personnel.
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking you how many cases she adjudicated.
My answer remains.
Did she adjudicate any cases involving Israelis seeking asylum in this country?
Same answer.
Can we impeach this guy once and for all, for God's sake?
You know, Hawley is he's always so in control.
Yes.
But you could hear, his voice shook a little. He is so angry.
Yeah, he should be.
And he speaks for all of us who are so fed up with this. Get rid of this guy.
And the idea, the sanctimonious grandstanding and pivot. How dare you? They all want to have you no decency.
Yeah, it's all Greta.
Yeah.
How dare you?
How dare you? The difference here is that we're talking about Alger Hiss,
Yeah.
okay?
I'm sorry. I'm not going to let you, you're such a blowhard, and I'm not going to let you run out the clock with your 4 points.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I have
Just
4
answer the
answers
question.
to you.
Has she been fired? It's very, very simple.
Right. And we got the answer finally. She hasn't been fired.
Nope.
She's been put on administrative leave, which means she's still on the payroll. We're still paying her salary. We're still paying.
I love how they're like defending a Trump employee. If anything. Maybe we should just pivot over to maybe we should get rid of the Trump employee. Maybe then these Democrats will care.
Well, listen, I assure you, if it was a traditional Catholic who went to Latin Mass and regularly
Outta
attended
here.
school board meetings, he'd have plenty to say in that hearing.
Now on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36 now. Thanks for tuning in here to O'Connor and Company on WMAL. The first day of November. I don't know how that happened. Coming up at 8:35, Adam Credo. He's an expert on Middle East policy, Iran sanctions, and there's new legislation trying to solidify those sanctions coming through Congress. He'll give us the latest on that. I'm Larry O'Connor, and Julie Gunlock's with us this morning. Julie,
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Off the sugar rush of last night, all the Halloween stuff. There's a lot to discuss. You just heard in the last half hour we spoke with that mom whose son now has to shower in a locker room with a young woman who used to be a cheerleader, now identifying as male, and they have no choice. And they'll get in trouble if they raise the issue. They're being bullied. That and a whole lot of other issues are at play here in this Loudoun County School Board election that is, well, we're in the middle of it now. The last day of voting will be next Tuesday. Amy Riccardo is running for the Sterling District, and she joins us now. Amy, thank you so much for even throwing your hat in and being a part of this process. Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
There's two major issues, that first one, and then also this fentanyl story that blew up last night. I want to start, though, with this first issue. What is your position on the governor's model policies for schools, and should you get elected, will you advocate for Loudoun County to follow suit and adopt those policies?
Yeah, I absolutely will. And I'll tell you a little bit about my background that kind of drives that. So I'm a former Division I volleyball player. And so I've been in the, growing up in the school system, the public school system, playing sports of all kinds and sorts. And, girls are, as their, bodies are changing in their teenage years, are really self-conscious of it around other girls, not even to mention in front of boys. I just can't even imagine today's environment where our girls are having to be put in these kind of situations. And, as you heard earlier, from Ann, it's, and even for our boys too, right? They're enormously uncomfortable as well. So, it's just a crazy situation that we've put our kids in, that we're expecting them and trying to normalize the idea of dressing in front of the other sex and just making that a normal part of things. And it's really disappointing, doesn't even begin to cover it. And I'll tell you, as a player in the early 90s, having, thought the whole Title IX thing from a different perspective, it's sad that only one generation later we're still having to deal with it, but in a different way.
Amy, it is sad. And it's so good, though, that you have that athletic background, because I think you can really speak to this, and especially probably have an understanding of Title IX, unlike a lot of people. But, it is also really, in some ways, it's emotional abuse to tell these kids these are very normal feelings, feeling uncomfortable, changing clothes in front of the opposite sex. And here school officials are saying that if you have a problem with that, you're the problem. And this, again, is, this is abusive to treat kids that way. What will you also do to encourage parents? I think a lot of parents have been scared away from school boards and from talking to school officials. How will you encourage more communication between parents and school officials?
Yeah, I tell you what, I think the first thing for me is opening up, at least, and we've been doing it here in Sterling, some listening sessions with parents to really hear about what their concerns are. I'm quite certain that the existing school board doesn't do that. Yeah. And doesn't, the school board meetings in and of themselves are a big dismissal of parents to begin with, and the rules that they've set up, it's very childlike, to be honest with you. They just refuse to hear any kind of feedback. So I think number one is us creating some opportunities for, to engage the public in settings that aren't necessarily at the school board building that setting, that are much more open to dialogue and really understanding what parents want in the school, and frankly listening to everybody, because we've really got to tone down the rhetoric in Loudoun County to move away from this hard political activism and become advocates for our kids. Yeah. All of them.
They've lost sight of that because they see the school board position as a stepping stone to higher office, and they push political agendas, major national political agendas, without asking what's best for the children of Loudoun County. And to that end, I got to ask you, and we're speaking right now with Amy Riccardo. She is running for school board in Loudoun County. We know that the school board, during the sexual assault issues of 2021, They were either actively engaged in a cover-up or they were completely clueless and didn't do their job of oversight. Either way, it's disqualifying. Now we're learning of 8 fentanyl overdoses, 8 in Parkview High School.
Wow.
And parents, some of the parents, on some of these cases, parents weren't notified at all. In some cases, they were notified at way late. I mean, if there's a fentanyl crisis in a high school and officials learn about it, every parent should be notified. Yeah. We got fentanyl in this school, and it appears they didn't. This appears to be yet another cover-up. Nick Minnock did some reporting on it yesterday. Still haven't heard from the school superintendent. I'd love for you to address this issue as well, because there seems to be a real disconnect here about putting parents at the table.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Parkview High School is here in Sterling Park, where I live. I can walk there. I actually was onto this issue back in early October. Dr. Spence did a listening session at Parkview High School on October 12th, and I was there at that session. And that afternoon, before that listening session, there was a fentanyl overdose at the school that required both Narcan and the AED defibrillators to be used on a student. And that night, when he sat there, and by the way, Brenda Sheridan, who's on the school board, was present as well, said absolutely nothing to the parents that night about that issue. And for sure, they discussed it. I mean, I don't know if they did, but there was a teacher, meeting with Spence, and the staff there before the parent session. You're telling me that you had a child that had to be medically removed, had to be removed with the ambulance to the hospital for an overdose, and they didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I think what you're going to wind up finding is this story is going to get a lot deeper as we get, down the road here. And I have a feeling there are probably a lot more fentanyl overdoses at Parkview than have been reported.
Well, God bless you for jumping in and being a part of this campaign, win or lose. But, boy, I sure hope you win. It's Amy for Sterling. That's the number 4, amyforsterling.com. It's the home stretch, so good luck in these final days. And hopefully we'll talk to you in your new position on the school board in Loudoun County.
Hey, and Julie, by the way, I was at the Independent Women's Forum Gala last week. It was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh,
really great.
I'm so glad you were there.
Oh, yeah, you should have stopped by to say hi. Yeah, all right.
Well, everybody's
next
busy
year.
Chatting.
Next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's 7:40. All right. Of course, this is the final throes of voting in Northern Virginia, all of Virginia, for the big election next Tuesday. And we need to warn you about something that's going on out there. This is really dangerous. I'm picking this up from NBC News. They've got a full investigative unit out investigating this nefarious election behavior in Virginia. Are you ready? Here's the tweet that they put out linking to their story at NBC News. Just before Election Day, conservative groups in Virginia are knocking on doors using education, taxes, and other issues to convince voters to flip the state Senate. Dun, dun, dun.
Called campaigning.
Yeah. In other words, conservatives and Republicans are campaigning in Virginia. I know they're not used to seeing this sort of behavior.
I have to say, though, in the article, the headline, it is somewhat refreshing. The headline is, GOP-aligned groups start final grassroots push in Virginia, instead of super duper MAGA groups. Like, right. I was at least, because these are GOP-aligned groups, so I was at least relieved when I clicked on the article to see the headline wasn't hysterical, because we are so used to everything being, super ultra MAGA groups.
But can you believe those conservatives knocking on doors of all things and reminding people about high taxes and where education is?
Yeah, this is a like, woman goes to grocery store and buys groceries. Like, it is such a nothing story. Literally, I mean, so are Democrats are knocking on doors.
Yeah, but they're not talking about education or taxes.
They're not.
All they're doing is
talking about abortion.
Terrify you about abortion.
Yes, that's all they have.
That's all they've got. In fact, they don't. See, here's the difference. Republicans are actually knocking on doors saying, if you elect me, these are the proactive things I'm going to do because things are broken and I'm going to fix them. We're going to fix education. We're going to lower taxes. We're going to empower you, the individual, instead of and Democrats going to knock on the door and say, that fascist is going to take away your right to kill a baby.
Right. And the other thing that the Democrats will do when it comes to abortion is they'll lie. They'll also say that Republicans want to take away birth control.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And like an outlaw abortion entirely. Nobody is suggesting this, right? Nobody is suggesting. So the Democrats will absolutely lie about abortion, whereas Republicans are talking about these are kitchen table issues that Americans really care about. Can I afford groceries? Can I gas up my car?
Young Kim was on the show on Friday and was asked point blank by Patrice. And I thought, honestly, as a good politician, I thought he dodged the question.
Right.
Patrice asked, he said, people are saying that you're trying to ban abortion. What is your position? He said, I think we're going to settle on about a 15-week situation.
That's right. Which brings it in line with every Western country.
So there's no hiding anything here. 15 weeks.
I know the Democrats want everyone to be able to deliver your baby, then kill it on the table.
Yes.
But, we just asked for some reasonable restrictions.
So that's NBC News. Just before Election Day, conservative groups in Virginia are knocking on doors.
I'm surprised they didn't say busting down your door.
The responses are pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the people on X replied and said, wow, can democracy survive this kind of an attack? Another one said, oh, no, there's a democracy happening.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. We're on people's radar. And one wonders, what do they say? If you're taking fire, it means you're over the target.
I love this one. Sounds sinister.
It sounds really sinister. It's okay, NBC News. Everything's going to be fine. We're looking forward to your very fair and balanced election coverage on election night. Oh, no, we're not. You're going to listen right here to News Talk 105.9 WMAL. And the very next morning. In fact, next week's going to be busy. We've got the election on Tuesday. The results, our show Wednesday morning is going to be replete with results of the very important elections. And then that night is the debate in Miami.
And you'll be down there.
I'll be down there covering the debate as well.
From the beach.
I wish. Is that a thing? Can I do that?
I think you can.
That?
Technology.
It's 7:53.